Hi guys, this is Karina Eskandari, team lead of Eskandari Real Estate, and I'm here to give you the best tips and tricks for Toronto's real estate market. Let's talk all things tenanted properties. When it comes to selling a tenant property, it's no mystery that we do face certain obstacles that are out of our control, which typically makes tenanted properties a little bit tougher to sell. So what are some of the obstacles that we face? Number one, the condition of the property remains a little bit out of our hands because the tenant has their own furniture. It's up to them to have the property showroom ready before every potential showing. And they can also be cooking foods that create an aroma that are not necessarily that attractive to potential buyers. Unfortunately, these items are a little bit out of your control as the seller, but we as agents try our best to communicate with the tenant what we need in order to get this home sold. The next obstacle you might face is a tenant that has a difficult schedule and rejects a lot of showings. So by the Residential Tenancies Act, tenants are supposed to allow showings with 24-hour notice from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. However, there are times that tenants often do reject certain showings. As you know, rejecting a showing can be detrimental because most times agents book to see quite a few listings at the same time, and unless they're specifically coming to see yours, there's a low probability that they will necessarily come back to view that unit once it's been rejected. The next obstacle you can face is a tenant who just simply does not want to leave. This can make selling it very, very difficult and would probably be the worst possible scenario. Now, when you're trying to sell a tenanted property, it is best to have your agent circumvent the communication with the tenant to come from a more authoritative position. So when I communicate with tenants, I don't necessarily give the option in the showing request to accept the showing, to deny the showing, or to suggest a time change. They are just instructed that with 24-hour notice by the Residential Tenancies Act, they will get the showing request and they'll know that that showing is coming at that time. Having an outsider give these instructions can alleviate the pressure from you, and often coming from an authoritative standpoint will ease in the process. The next thing you can do, for example, as an agent or as the seller with a difficult tenant who doesn't want to leave during showings is, for example, I used to have a tenant and I would give them a $20 Starbucks gift card every time a showing came, so that way they would go for a walk, get out of the potential buyer's hair, and grab a Starbucks. So there's little things and tips and tricks you can do in order to get a tenant on your side and make them cooperative. One thing you must note though, you must abide by the residential tenancy guidelines. Don't break the rules because there are consequences that could be financial and quite expensive if you do. Just because you're selling a property does not mean the tenant needs to leave. The tenant only needs to leave if the new buyer is using it for their own personal use. If it is an investor purchasing it to put another tenant in, they cannot kick that tenant out, and neither can you. Make sure you know that. It is very important. Another suggestion I have if your tenant is not super clean is to invest in having a cleaner there once a week who does the cleaning of the property for you, probably before weekends where the bulk of showings do take place. And this is something that I suggest investing in order to make sure the property shows as well as possible. Another thing that I have done when I have an investor that I know will eventually want to sell and takes on the unit vacant, I take photos of the property while it's vacant. The reason I do that is I can use those photos later and either post them vacant or virtually staged to give buyers the impression of what the place could look like without the tenant's furniture, obviously noting that the photos are virtually enhanced. Finally, make sure all your notices are in writing. A text message is not sufficient. You need the proper notice forms to provide for your tenants, or else they could be thrown out the window. My biggest tip is create a good relationship with your tenant. If you from day one have created a strong relationship with your tenant, there's a good chance that they will want to cooperate with you and help you throughout the process, just like a friend. So make sure you take that approach from day one. Working with an experienced agent who knows how to sell tenanted properties is also vital in this process, so make sure you contact me or my team in order to get an evaluation started and a strategy session to discover what's the best way to approach your potential tenanted property. Like and subscribe for more weekly YouTube videos, and if you're interested in booking a complimentary appointment with me, please see the link in the Calendly and book your time slot.